immigrant minors who attempted to cross the border. This year, there are going to be close to 100,000. That doesn't just magically happen. President Obama, who's going out there now saying, well, I didn't incentivize, I don't know where are they getting this crazy idea? Where are they getting this insane idea? That they should come across the border. And they're getting this crazy idea from the fact that the President of the United States has vowed not to deport anyone between the ages of 16 and 30 in the country illegally, from the fact that the President of the United States sued the state of Arizona for enforcing federal immigration law, and from the fact that the President of the United States has stood behind every effort by major cities, including Los Angeles, to become sanctuary cities. Just yesterday, the LAPD announced they wouldn't even admit requests from ICE to hold criminal illegal aliens 48 extra hours so we could find out if they were eligible for deportation. The mayor of Eric Garcetti said that. What was the Obama administration's response? Dead silence. But Jan Brewer says, we'd like to find out if people are illegal immigrants, and the President of the United States sues her. I wonder where these illegal immigrants got this idea. I wonder. And so the question becomes, what do we do? Because this president is a criminal, and the criminality is not going to end with him. Okay, well, we're watching here this idea that the President of the United States is going to end his tenure, and then we will move on into the... If Hillary Clinton is your idea of a non-criminal in the White House, I'd like to see your idea of a criminal in the White House. If you are... She hasn't declared her candidacy yet, obviously. But suffice it to say, the problem we have here is a systemic one. Because the founders wanted, the founders were desperate for, a check on the executive branch. The legislature will not do it. The legislature is not interested in doing it. The legislature is interested in getting reelected. And to do that, they just hand all their power over to a bunch of unelected bureaucrats, unelected regulators. Because that way, if something goes wrong, they blame the executive branch, and if something goes right, they take credit. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court of the United States is certainly no check and balance on the executive branch. Anybody who read the Hobby Lobby case as a check on the executive branch is missing the point, that we are one vote away from it not being. And also missing the point that Hobby Lobby could have established a broad mandate in favor of religious freedom and neglected to do so. It was a very narrowly tailored decision. The same thing was true of the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board decision that happened the week before. Right? That particular decision was portrayed by the press as a slap against the Obama administration. It absolutely was not, as Justice Scalia explained in his concurrence. It instead set up a process whereby any time Congress takes a vacation more than 10 days, the President of the United States can appoint anybody he wants. That's in the decision. The states would have been the normal check on the federal government. This is what the founders thought. This is why the founders believed that the Constitution was a compact not only of the people but of the states. This is what it says in the Federalist Papers. It says, okay, well, the federal government will never get too big because the states won't stand for it. Well, that's been largely overthrown because of the nasty legacy of states' rights and what that has historically meant. That doesn't discredit the concept of states' rights, which needs to come back in a very major way in order to preserve freedom in the United States. And we need to disconnect the nasty history of states' rights from the fundamentally good principle of states' rights. But that has proved not to be enough of a check. The final check, unfortunately, is us. And we're seeing that. And what we're seeing in Marietta is that the buses are turning around. What we're seeing is that the American people don't understand a fundamental truth, and when they do understand it, they tend to turn toward our side. The American people do not understand a fundamental truth. That fundamental truth is that every government law, every government regulation is backed by a gun. Every one of them. In the end, the EPA regulations on how much water you use in your toilet. If you don't use the proper amount of water in your toilet, the first thing they will do is they will send you a fine. If you refuse to pay the fine, they will put a lien on your property. If you refuse to pay the lien, they will send an agent with a gun to your house to arrest you. And if you resist, they'll shoot you. Every government law is backed by point of gun. And now, if Americans realize this, if it occurred to them that this was the truth, they might be a little bit more careful about what exactly they decided to give people the power to do with a gun. Now, the left has this meme that folks on the right love guns. We love guns. You're right, we do love guns for self-defense. There's only one group in America that loves guns more than folks on the right. Folks on the left who want to use the government gun in order to violate the rights of people on the right. They love guns. They just don't want us to have them. So for the final barrier between what really is a great American past and a tremendously awful American future, then the question becomes, what do we do? And I've suggested in the book that we can pass a law that would allow us to sue the Obama administration, sue the executive branch, hold them up in court. That would do something. You've heard people like Andy McCarthy push for impeachment. Sarah Palin today pushed for impeachment. Only one problem. In the grand history of the United States, 19 total impeachments in the House, 8 total convictions in the Senate. So I don't think getting rid of one executive official once every 30 years is probably going to do it. In the end, it's going to come down to, unfortunately and fortunately, convincing people. It's going to come down to making people understand these fundamental concepts, which is why what we're doing at the center is so important, which is why the information that we propagate is so important, because the media is, of course, the great lie machine on behalf of the executive tyranny. The press is more than happy to watch the president violate American freedoms so long as he's on their side. And so we're going to have to step up. We're going to have to call things by the right name. We're going to have to tell the truth. We're going to have to go into communities we never thought we were going to have to go into. We saw today that the Republican National Committee decided that it would be a great idea to hold the convention in Cleveland, which, if it's not good enough for LeBron, it's not good enough for conservatives. But they decided to hold it in Cleveland. Republicans need to get out of the realm of this is politics as usual, and they need to get into the realm of we are fighting against a tyranny, and unless we convince enough people to fight that tyranny, we are going to lose. What they should do, what conservatives should do, Republican, not Republican, doesn't matter, what conservatives really truly should do is they should hold a convention in Detroit, in downtown Detroit. I'm talking like the worst part of Detroit. And what they should do is they should buy up one of those horrific horror show looking old buildings, you know, that looks like comes straight off the set of a zombie movie. They should buy it up, they should refurbish the inside, and the entire speech by whoever the nominee is, the entire speech should just be a long shot of the surroundings in the city of Detroit, and they should say, this is what Democrats do. This is what the left does. And more than that, the left will put a gun to your head in order to achieve this. Once Americans understand that the destructive agenda of the left is not just another political agenda, it's something that is violative of basic human freedoms. Once they understand that government is not the source of rights, God is the source of rights, we need to go back to foundational principles, in other words. All these things used to be assumed. We can't assume them anymore. The American people are ignorant. The American people have been trained by 40 hours a week of public education and 40 hours a week of television that we need a big man, a great leader to lead us to prosperity and freedom. We're going to need to fight back against that on every available front. We don't have time to pick which front we fight back against because they're pushing on every available front. So, I know this is all depressing. I know this is all the kind of stuff that makes you want to jump in the bathtub and toss a toaster in with you. I know. I've been there. But when you decide to unplug the toaster, it's time for us to stop with the candlelight vigils. It's time for us to stop with the prayer sessions. It's time for us to stop with the hand-wringing and the hopes that maybe there will one day be a politician on the right who will just embody our values and say it just right, just like Reagan. And it's time for us to realize that, in the words of a famous would-be dictator, we are the people we've been waiting for. Thanks so much.
Because C-SPAN is taping, if anyone has a question, they need to line up here at the microphone. So if anyone has a question for Ben, please come up and ask.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Sorry. Yeah, come up to the mic if you... Sorry, I know it's a schlep.
Ben, in addition to impeachment and the political ramifications of that, the House of Representatives has the power of the purse.
Yes. No, this is absolutely
Could you comment
true.
on that?
Yeah, the House of Representatives should be, and this is what they should be been doing this all along. I recommended this to the House leadership, which of course they ignored. The House of Representatives should not be doing what Ted Cruz suggested, and they should also not be funding these things. What the House of Representatives should be doing is they should pass single measure bills, one page long, on each part of the federal government. Fund the government individually and singly. No more omnibus packages. Omnibus packages are a way to hide crap. Because here's the argument that ends up happening. It's exactly the argument that Cruz was having with his fellow Republicans in the Senate as well as with Democrats. He was saying basically, look, you've created this massive sandwich, and in the middle of this is a turd. Okay, I don't like turd sandwiches. I don't want the sandwich. And Democrats are saying, yeah, but we have to eat. Right? Well, how about this? How about instead of that, we just separate the sandwich? We'll pass a bill for bread, and then we'll pass a bill for lettuce, and then we'll pass a bill for bacon if you're not Jewish. And we'll pass all these, we'll pass a wide variety of bills, singly funding each element of the government. And then, when we're all done doing that, we will leave out certain things that we don't want to fund. Right? Let the Democrats stonewall a bill to specifically fund a particular element of the Defense Department. Let them hold that up, and then blast that out. Why are they standing against our soldiers in the field? which they would do, by the way, why are they standing against children if you're trying to fund particular aspects of education? Fund everything singly. That's the easiest way to defund. Not these climactic, these climactic battles we're supposed to have every 3 months. Where is it the debt ceiling? Do we hold that up? Do we hold that? No. Do it the way that it was supposed to be done under the Constitution of the United States. Spending and revenue originate in the House. Pass each bill singly, pass each bill 2 pages at a time so all of us can understand it. We don't have to look through 8 feet of regulations. Thanks.
Why can't you impeach, get a group to impeach the president, even though the group will lose? You will get publicity. Everything that you've said will be out in the press. It'll be on the radio. It'll be on the television. This is something you can't buy, you just can't buy it.
Okay, we need to understand 2 fundamental principles going into any talk of impeachment. The first fundamental principle is that obviously he's not going to be convicted in the Senate. We know that, right? He's not going anywhere. And beyond that, even if he were, then we'd get Joe Biden, who I know we all dismiss as what he is, which is a man of very little brain. But he is also a hardcore ideologue. And so the suggestion, it turns out that even stupid presidents can do an enormous amount of damage. So leave that aside for a second. The other truth, and this is what we do at Truth Revolt, is that the media will completely destroy it. The media will completely destroy it. The same way that they destroyed Kenneth Starr in order to protect their beloved Clinton. The same way that they're going to destroy these protesters in Murrieta. What we need to focus on before we even get to that is winning back the hearts and minds of the American people. Because the way this is going to come off, and you know where the media narrative is going on this, and you can predict it. And this is not me agreeing with the media narrative, obviously. It's false, it's a lie, but this is what the media does. What they will do is they will state that the only reason to impeach Barack Obama, who has committed no crime, of course, which is what they'll say, the only reason is because he's a black guy. Right? We're all a bunch of racists, and so therefore it would be a backfire. I am not focused, as much as I say that Obama's a criminal, there are lots of criminals. There are lots of them. Right? They're stacked up in the DOJ, they're stacked up in the EPA, they're stacked up in the IRS, they're stacked up in every executive branch of government, and every executive agency, by the way, has its own SWAT team. So all the criminals are in the government, they all have guns. The solution is not to get rid of one guy, the solution is to defund all these various parts of the government. If we're going to do something in the House, let's do that, because that's actually achievable. And then the solution is to work on convincing the American people that it's actually worthwhile being an American, because right now we don't have a battle in this country between one ideology that's American and another that's quasi-American. We have one that's American and we have one that is absolutely and utterly foreign and antithetical to American ideals.
Excuse me. My question is, I think most of us know that all those emails that they claim that they've been destroyed or crashed, I believe in my heart that they will eventually be found. I believe that they've been backed up. They're probably backed up at the NSA.
I'm sure.
Yeah. The question is...
When's the last time you lost your emails and you took a drill to your computer to get them out? That's what they did. They drilled a hole through Lois Lerner's hard drive. Legitimately. Yeah. When she said her computer was broken, they took a drill and drilled a hole directly through her hard drive.
Exactly. Well, eventually they're going to be exposed, and we're going to learn about them. And once we learn that they're tied to the White House directly, my question to you is, do you think that will be enough will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, that some extreme action could be taken to remove this man from office?
Well, I think that, again, this is, again, the impeachment question in a different guise. I don't think that there's going to be anything that encourages Democrats to impeach their own president. It's not going to happen. What we should be focused on is the portrayal of folks who are criminals. And that's why I think it's important to speak of them as criminals. And it's important to recognize the criminality and the absolute evil of so many folks in the executive branch, because it is evil to violate the rights of other people. As far as the IRS scandal, I actually do not believe that the emails will be found. I believe that if they are found, I don't think there will be a smoking gun, because Barack Obama is a lawyer, and all lawyers know the fundamental rule of committing a criminal act: don't put it in writing. I highly doubt you're ever going to find an email directly from Barack Obama to Lois Lerner saying, you know, it'd be awesome if you just went after the Tea Party patriots here. I really don't think that you're going to dig that up. And you don't need to. I mean, that's what's so insane. In this country, you don't need to do that. This is what the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, the RICO Act, was created in 1970 to go after the mafia. The premise of that act was that it was very difficult to tie the heads of the mafia, the Don Corleone figures, from to the Luca Brasi figures, because there was never a direct chain of command. Right? There was never a direct order. So they created RICO to say, okay, it's obvious that you wanted this person to be killed. You're obviously a conspiracy. And so now we're going to drag you all into court together. That's what the executive branch is. It is a mafioso organization. The President of the United States never needs to say to Lois Lerner, target 501c4s on the other side of the aisle. All he has to do is make a bunch of speeches about how Citizens United is evil and terrible, and wouldn't it be great if somebody did this? And a bunch of senators on the Democrat side of the aisle need to send a letter, which is what they did, to the IRS saying, please target some Tea Party groups, and magically, voila, Tea Party groups targeted. And then, of course, you have people running to the microphones to declare it a phony scandal. Here's the problem. The media has such utter control over the narrative in this country, and this is why we're going to, I've been begging folks. There are folks on the right, and they will drop $400 million on crappy ads in far-flung areas of Virginia for Mitt Romney, right, that nobody will ever see. Those $400 could buy a network. I mean, honest to God, for a couple $1 billion, you could buy NBC. Right? If we're actually going to do this, then let's do it right. Let's get into the business of taking over the things people watch. It's amazing. I mean, we on the right, we're acting like it's still 1790, and now it's time for us to print up and distribute a bunch of pamphlets. Pamphlets are great. Okay, they are. They're wonderful. But it turns out that most people my age have never read a pamphlet. Most people my age don't even know what a pamphlet is. Is it some sort of e-book? What is it? Right? Pamphlets are important. They really are, because they get people who are the people who actually have money to read about the situation. They get people to distribute. But you really want to do something? Why don't you go to where the crowd is? We're such fuddy-duddies over on the right that we're lecturing young people about what we wish they liked, what we wish they watched, what we wish they did with their free time, instead of saying, oh, well, what you actually do with your free time is not study Hayek. Wow, shocker. What do you actually do with your free time? Oh, it turns out that you watch NBC. It turns out that you watch CBS or ABC. It turns out that you go to websites like BuzzFeed. Instead of going where the crowd is, we're standing out on the street corner with the signs saying the end is near, and then we expect everybody to sort of resonate to us. That's not the way that it works. If we're going to spend our money, let's spend our money smart, let's put our money where it counts, and let's stop worrying about local TV ads that, by the way, everybody my age TiVo'd through. There's this invention, it's called TiVo. You go through the commercials, it's magic.
Everything that you have said to us today is true, and I'm sure everybody here understands you completely. It appears as though pretty much the fix is in. The low information voters are not us or most of our friends, although we do have these friends. And so
that's a bad move on your part if you do, but continue.
I have two points. Point one is, how do we reach the low information populace when we can't get around the media and we can't get the information out? And for those of us who have friends who are low information voting Democrats, who think they're Democrats because they don't understand what it means now, what in a sentence or two
This is the right question. This is totally the right question.
Thank you.
Right, the right question is not what do we do about Obama. Particularly, the question is not what do we do about the criminality of this particular administration. The question is, how do we reach people? How do we talk to them on a level that they understand? And believe it or not, me citing the Arms Export Control Act is not going to do a lot of good with people my age who don't know that arms are not those things that Jillian Barberie has on her body. The answer is actually, nobody has spelled this out better than my mentor, David Horowitz. Nobody has spelled this out better. You have to speak the language of morality. You must speak the language of morality. The left wins because nobody on the left knows anything about politics. They know you're evil. That's it. They know you're a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe who hates the poor. Right? That's what they know about you. And it's not they think that about you. They know that about you. Deep down, they know all these evil things about you, which is why Thanksgiving dinners are always so awkward if you're unfortunate to have Jewish relatives or you have friends on the left, which are the exact same focus group. The answer to all of this is to speak in the language of morality. This is why I never say that the government compels people to do stuff. The government does not compel people to do stuff. The government compels people to do stuff at point of gun. Why do I say that? Because leftists are scared of guns. Right? When we say the government compels things, people say, oh, well, compulsion. Well, that's just like taxes, right? No. That's somebody coming to your house in the middle of the night with a SWAT team, with a gun, pointing it at you and dragging you off to prison for not doing what they want. Right? That is what we are facing. Right? When it comes to the left, it's not, when we're such idiots, honestly. We were constantly arguing about whether our tax program is more efficient than their tax program. It's not about efficiency. Barack Obama gave the right answer to the wrong question, right? When he was asked in 2008, would you raise the capital gains tax, even if it means less revenue to the government? Would you raise it? He said yes, for purposes of fairness. Right? Even if it meant people were more impoverished, even if it meant people were more poor, The answer was yes, for purposes of fairness. Why? Because people don't speak the language of poverty. People don't speak the language of efficiency. People don't speak Mitt Romney's 57-point tax plan. You can't even name 2 points on his 57-point tax plan. People speak the language of fairness and justice and morality. They want to think that they're right and the other guy is wrong. They want to have a feeling of, in many cases, unearned moral superiority based on their opposition to things. This is why everybody was getting off ripping on Donald Sterling for being a crazy old racist coot. Did they accomplish anything? No. But they felt real good because they got to go around telling all their friends that Donald Sterling was a racist old coot. Right? This is what they do. So, speak their language. In other words, next time they say something like, I believe in the minimum wage, then you should say, why exactly is it that you want to put a gun to the head of a business owner and force them to pay something? Why is that okay? Why isn't that violative of basic principles of consent? Like you over here, you like gay marriage because you say that 2 men should be able to wed each other, but those 2 men shouldn't be able to do business with each other in a mutually agreed relationship? So if instead of them having sex, they were actually just, one was signing a check to the other to paint his car, then you're saying that's not okay? And that you're going to take a gun and put it to the head of one of them in order to make that happen? It's because you're a totalitarian. Right? This is the truth. The left is totalitarian. You don't have to feel bad about saying these things. And when you talk about the inefficiencies of the left's social policies in the inner city, who gives a crap? This is really, I mean, honestly, that no one in the inner city is thinking about, wow, this really is not very efficient. What they're thinking is there are a bunch of Tea Party, Ku Klux Klanners out there who are going to invade their inner city and burn down their houses. Why do they think that? Because they're Democrats and apparently some Republicans, Dad Cochran, who actually have been doing this sort of stuff, have been saying this sort of stuff. The answer to that is that the real racists are and always have been folks on the left who wish to exploit racial division in order to pay off their cronies. The reason the education system sucks in the inner city is because the left wants to pay off its union buddies at the expense of black kids. The reason that the left has not done anything for the inner cities despite years of dominance in Detroit, the reason is because they wanted the violence. And it is about intent. It's not about effect. There was a really telling point in the 2012 election cycle when Bill Clinton was talking about Obama, and he said, the difference between Obama and Mitt Romney is that Romney is somebody who says that Barack Obama's done a really poor job. Barack knows he hasn't done a great job, but he feels really bad about it. This was an actual line, right? And people bought that because, and the polls show this, right? 80% of people thought that Mitt Romney cared less about them than Barack Obama in exit polls. 80%, that's a majority of Republicans. Right? But when it came to policies, they agreed with Mitt Romney. But people don't vote with their heads, people vote with their hearts. So, go after what people feel. Go after the language of morality. Socialism is not a good idea that went wrong, and whenever you hear Republicans or conservatives say this, it's because they have the IQ of a kumquat. Socialism was a horribly evil idea that went completely right. It went exactly as they thought it was going to go. This was the design from the start. Socialism is a fundamentally immoral, evil, unfair, discriminatory, and disgusting system that violates off the bat 3 of the 10 commandments, right? You don't steal, God, not government, and you shouldn't be jealous of your neighbor's ass, right? That's in the actual language, correct?
Yes.
Not the Bill Clinton language. So these are the terms that we should be speaking. These are the terms that hit young people. Because young people, nobody has the time to read all of the entire editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. Nobody does. Everybody's attention span is 5 seconds long. So if you can't make people feel good about being conservative, make them feel really, really bad about being leftist. You know why? They deserve to feel bad about being leftist. They're siding with an evil ideology.
Okay, and I apologize. This has to be the last question.
Ben, I got to get my pulse down a little bit before I ask this. I really want to thank you for an informative, exciting, educational talk that is enlightening for everybody. I have... Oh.
No, thank you.
I have 2 questions hooked together but totally separate because I don't want to be mistaken with these questions. Number 1, you discussed about the ideological foundings of President Obama, but I didn't recall hearing you talk about what some psychologists have talked about, his narcissism, which is his inability to see where he's wrong. Then the second question, and separate, are you going to run for office someday?
As far as the first question, and thank you for delinking the questions. I see now why you did that. As far as the first question as to his narcissism, yes, of course, President Obama is a dramatic narcissist. Most people who run for office are, which is why we de-linked the question. The first requirement of running for office should be that you desperately do not want to run for office. That would be a good start. But as far as President Obama, his narcissism, yes, he's an egoist, but this goes along with the overweening sense of self that comes along with a nihilistic atheism resulting in his ideology. This is what the left is all about. It's all about narcissism. It's about your feelings. It doesn't matter if that black kid in the inner city gets shot in the face a couple of times. All that matters is that you feel good about what you say about the black kid who got shot in the inner city, even if you didn't save him or you're not going to save his neighbor. Leftism is all about narcissism. It's all about helping yourself, because socialism is about narcissism. Socialism is based on the fundamental premise, I'm breathing, I'm here, feed me. Okay, it turns out that my 5-month-old baby is a socialist. She is, right? She's hungry, I feed her, she poops, I clean her. Right? She's cuter than the vast majority of socialists I know, and the nice thing is, at a certain point, I know she'll grow out of it, unlike the rest of these idiots. But socialism is all about selfishness, it's all about narcissism, it's all about an overweening sense of superiority based on nothing you've ever done. Because socialists, by and large, do not build businesses, they don't make people's lives better, they don't increase the efficacy of government, they don't make people's prosperity happen. They don't do any of these things. They didn't build that, in other words. But they take credit for that because it makes them feel better. So that's the answer to the first question. Of course he's an egotist. Of course Hillary Clinton is an egotist. Of course Joe Biden is a massive egotist because he's not even smart and he's an egotist. As far as the second question, would I ever run for office? There's too much work to be done. There's too much work to be done. So I could be like, any myriad number of congresspeople who are locked into battling over specific provisions of 400-page laws. I could be locked into, working on committees that debate all day and do nothing and then are overruled by the president at whim. Or I could work to change the fundamental ideology of the country. And it won't matter if elected, or if Ted Cruz got elected, or if Rand Paul got elected, or Mike Pence, or Bobby J, or any of these folks. If the American people don't begin to understand what America is all about. And we've lost that. We've lost that. We think July 4th is about barbecues. And more than that, we think it's about food stamp barbecues. Right? We think that the American founding is about the idea that government is supposed to provide for me. We have all become infantilized. We are all adolescent in our approach. It's interesting, last night, kind of slightly off topic, but not really. Last night, I was beginning to realize for the 1000th time that since my baby was born, she's completely destroyed my emotional life, because I used to be the guy who was utterly insensitive and callous, and it was fun. And last night I'm watching AMC because I'm an old man, and on AMC they're showing Carousel. I'm a big musical fan. My dad writes musicals, and so they're showing Carousel, and it's about halfway through the movie, and my wife needs to do some work, so I flip off the TV and I turn on YouTube and I watch, and this is where I'm not an old person, and I watch the end of Carousel on YouTube. And so I'm sitting there crying like a baby, and I'd seen the musical. I mean, I've seen it many times performed, and now I'm sitting there crying. And my wife looks at me and she says, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, I'm watching the end of Carousel." She says, "Well, what happens?" Spoiler alert for those who missed it in 1954. What happens at the end of Carousel is that Billy Bigelow, who has been killed halfway through the musical, he comes back and he's supposed to, and he's given this one chance to tell his wife and his daughter that he loves them so they can move on. And so the end of the musical is him saying, "I love you, believe I loved you, Julie." Julie's his wife. And then he walks off into the distance as they sing, "You'll Never Walk Alone." Right? That's the end of the musical. So I tell my wife this, and of course she starts crying. I say, "You're not even watching it. Why are you crying?" The point is this. For those of us who are responsible, for those of us who care about children, have children, care about the future, recognize our own mortality, realize there's something beyond ourselves, this is not a fight we can afford to lose. There is something beyond us. The left, they're a bunch of adolescents. They don't care about the next generation. In fact, they're willing to bankrupt the next generation so they can have a good old time right now. They're willing to redistribute all the wealth, destroy everything that we've created, destroy the greatest civilization in the history of mankind, specifically to satiate their own hedonistic needs. That's not what we're about. And so, in a way, my daughter has obviously taken the pizzazz out of me, but she has also changed, she's deepened what I already believed from something that was an ideology into a creed and a way of life. And for all of us who live it, it is a way of life. That way of life is under attack. And the only way to destroy the folks who are attempting to attack us is to destroy them. And destroy them. And destroy them. And keep destroying them. And there is no utopia where they go away permanently. They won't. The fight never ends. We can't afford to tire. We can't afford to falter. If we do, they will win. But if we fight back, and we fight back strong, and we fight back smart, and we recognize the situation that we face, I do believe that with the grace of God we can win. Thanks so much.